Welcome to Pinball Basics. My name is Tom Weibel, and I am a pinball enthusiast. I collect and restore pinball machines, and have played pinball machines since the early 70s. My goal is to pass on some basic pinball skills which will hopefully improve your pinball playing. Using a practical common sense approach, I will demonstrate pinball skills, techniques, and strategies. From this foundation, you can go on to more advanced levels of play. You can also develop your own style based on these fundamental techniques. Now let me tell you about the special features of this DVD. The topics are arranged in 8 chapters which you may study and re-watch if necessary to get the most out of them. To begin, I'd like to cover some basic aspects of pinball. Pinball machines have a rule card in the lower left corner. A quick review of this card and a careful scanning of the playfield is a good way to start. Having an understanding of the goals and the shots required to complete the goals is essential to higher levels of play. To make the required shots, you need to be able to control the ball. This will help keep the ball from draining and allow you to make your shots. In the following chapters, I will cover ball control skills and how game design affects gameplay. Let's get started. Aiming is important in order to play well. You need to be able to hit the targets and ramps that are necessary to complete the goals of the game, which will lead to higher scores. Better aim will come through practice and experience. Simple shots. A simple shot is when you shoot for something on the opposite side of the playfield from the flipper you are using. This is the most common shot, as the angle of the flipper lends itself to shooting at the opposite side. Generally, flipping nearer the tip will result in the ball going off at a greater angle and with more speed than closer to the pivot. If the ball is coming from the in lane, the faster the ball is heading across the flipper, the greater the angle the ball will take. Backhand shots. A backhand shot is when you shoot at something that is on the same side of the playfield as the flipper you are using. This angle seems unintuitive, but many shots can be made this way. Backhands are easier to do when you are shooting from a cradle. Some shots which can lead to a drain due to the angle of the target can be safely made using a backhand shot. When practicing and learning, shoot from the cradle. A predictable and slow ball is easier to hit than a fast incoming ball. Cradle practice points to remember. 1. Hitting the ball closer to the tip sends the ball to the opposite side of the playfield, typically with more power. 2. Backhands are done closer to the pivot point. After learning some basic aiming skills, refine your reactive flipping accuracy. Reactive flipping is when you flip the ball without trapping or cradling first. Reactive flipping points to remember. 1. The same principles apply to aiming as in cradle flipping, but you must learn the effect that the ball's approach angle and velocity will have on your flipping. 2. A slight flipping delay will allow the rested flipper to absorb some of the ball's downhill energy. This will let you flip the ball back up the playfield with more energy. 3. In-lane transition hop can affect aiming. Your most accurate flipping will come with good contact between the ball and flipper with no bounce. 4. Interception flipping can work, but remember that you will deliver less energy to the ball. Interception aiming. The flippers can be swung early in order to change the angle of impact. Some power is lost, but the range of possible shot angles is increased. This technique can be used when time is of the essence. Your accuracy with this technique can improve with practice. Flipper mechanisms vary greatly based on vintage, wear, and make. This will affect aiming, so your technique must adapt as you change machines. Let's review. Use trapping and cradle shooting to increase accuracy. Backhand shots may reduce drain risk, and accuracy will improve with practice and experience. Passing can be used to make shots that are side dependent and to reduce drain risk from bad angles. Passing methods include the rollover, tap pass, post pass, and the bounce pass. The bounce pass is an easy pass to learn and simply involves judging the ball's speed and angle, then letting the ball bounce off one flipper and over to the other. Often the resulting bounce is trappable. A rollover pass is done simply by extending the flipper so the ball will roll over the tip to the other flipper. To execute a rollover pass, you must be familiar enough with the machine to know how much speed is required to get the ball over to the other flipper. On some games, a roll down the in-lane is enough speed for this pass. If you see a failed pass happening, a quick flip of the flipper when the ball is near the tip will save the ball. Post passing is done from a cradled position with a quick release and extension of the flipper. With proper timing, the ball will bounce off the lower slingshot post and bounce out over to the other flipper. Since post-passing technique varies with each machine, extensive practice is needed to prevent draining. Tap passing gets its name from the act of tapping the flipper button, just enough to flick the ball over to the other flipper. This pass is much easier on older games due to the way the flippers are wired. I don't recommend this pass on modern games. Let's review. Passing can be used to make shots that are side dependent. The four basic passes are bounce, rollover, post, and tap. Trapping or catching the ball is a form of ball control. It allows for easier aiming and multi-ball management. A simple trap can be done if the ball is moving slowly near the flipper pivot, but not yet touching the flipper. Be aware of the dead zones. When the ball is in the dead zone, the flipper can be extended without fear of hitting the ball away, and the ball will settle into the cradle. A simple trap can be done from the in lane on some games. If the ball rolls sufficiently slow, or if the ball can be slowed by nudging, then simply having the flipper raised is enough to cradle the ball. A subtle but effective trick is to give the ball a little flick if it starts to roll towards the tip. This will redirect some of the rolling energy upward and keep the ball above the flipper for a trap. A simple trap can also be done from a bounce, post, or a rollover pass. Drop catching is an advanced trapping technique which can be mastered with practice. If the raised flipper is dropped at the correct moment just before an incoming ball strikes it, the ball will come to rest on the flipper. With more practice and the correct approach angle, the ball can be made to gently roll up the in lane and trapped. Trapping one or more balls in a cradle during multi-ball can make play more manageable. Hold one or two balls in a cradle and use the other flipper to play. If you lose the ball, a quick flick will put one of the cradled pair into play. A cradled ball can be used to save a center draining ball. This is called a billiard block. Final trapping thoughts. 1. Trapping allows you to cradle more often to control the ball. 2. Trapping during multi-ball can extend multi-ball mode and make play more manageable. Let's review. Trapping is a form of ball control which allows for better aiming and multi-ball management. Simple trapping and drop catching are the most common methods of trapping. Nudging the machine is a way to influence the ball by transferring energy through the game. You'll be surprised how much you can shake and nudge a game after becoming familiar with the tilt mechanism. The tilt mechanism is a hanging plumb bob surrounded by a metal hoop. The cone-shaped piece is vertically adjustable to set the sensitivity of the tilt. When the plumb bob is shaken sufficiently enough to touch the hoop, a circuit is made which leads to a tilt. In older games, just touching once is a tilt. On modern games, the software allows for some touching of the hoop, which usually generates a warning, with tilt penalty awarded if another touch happens within a certain amount of time. You can now see that shaking or nudging the machine with short motions will not be sensed by the tilt mechanism. If you grip the machine and shake it forcibly, as long as the shaking is short motions, you can get away with a lot. It is good to let some settling time pass after a hard nudge or shake to allow the pendulum to stop swinging. As you can see in this demonstration, a lot of energy can be transferred to the ball by properly timed nudges. This technique also works to control the ball where there are multiple rollovers to complete. Typically, when a ball bounces off a flat surface, the reflected angle is equal to the approach angle. In pinball, the reflected angle differs depending on several factors: the type of element which the ball is bouncing off of, the spin of the ball, where on the rubber the ball is striking. Usually not much thought is given to stance, and everyone has their own style. One thing to keep in mind is that when you nudge the machine, you are generating force which relies on your body mass combined with your feet being firmly planted on the floor. An uneven stance might favor nudging in one direction, but not the other. Let's review. Nudging is a way to influence the ball by energy transfer. Become familiar with the tilt mechanism. Saving in pinball can be described as an action which keeps a ball in play that otherwise would drain. Generally, there are two ways to drain: straight down the middle or via an out lane. To save a ball which is heading down the middle at an angle, reduce the gap by raising the flipper if you think the ball will hit it. A pinball rolling down an open playfield will not change its direction unless acted upon by some force. We can use this principle to save balls heading straight down the middle. If we nudge or move the pinball machine to one side, the pinball inside the machine tends to stay in the same place in relation to the world outside the machine. This means that you can take the machine to the ball. Let me demonstrate this with a ball on a tray. The tray represents the playfield. You can see that when I move the tray, the ball tends to stay in the same place in space. Using this principle in pinball, we can move a flipper closer to the ball by moving the machine over at the correct moment to make contact with the ball. When you see a ball heading straight down the middle, try to judge which flipper the ball will pass closer to, and move the machine such that it brings that close flipper to the ball, and take a swing. Remember that if you get a piece of the ball, it may send it quickly to the other flipper, and will need a quick 1-2 flip to get the ball headed back up the playfield. Being aware of playfield design and dynamics goes a long ways towards predicting what the ball will do. Flippers have the most reach at the horizontal position. Time your flips so that you meet the ball using this principle. Timing is critical to get a piece of the ball. This, combined with a correctly timed nudge, can extend the reach. Judge the path to know which way to nudge and flip. When you're saving, you won't be aiming, just saving the ball. The slingshots, at first glance, may seem like an innocent device, which adds excitement to the game. In reality, they do, but they also are angled to send the ball outwards to the outlane area. They increase the odds of outlaning due to their side-flinging nature. When you know these secrets, you will be more prepared. Typically, the outboard side of the outlane is wood. Wood absorbs energy like a sponge. When the ball hits it, the ball goes dead and drops down the outlane. The inlane is typically surrounded with rubber, which is very bouncy. The ball will not go down the inlane as easily. The rubber which makes up the inlane will bounce the ball to the outlane. Also, the inboard side of the inlane is higher than the divider. This also gives a heavy bias toward sending the ball to the outlane. Some games have a metal ball guide attached to the wood. This also worked well to absorb energy and make the ball drop dead into the outlane. Since the ball is heading towards the outlanes due to the action of the slingshots, the inlanes do not get a 50% shot at the ball. If the ball is bouncing on the slingshots, a technique to avoid the outlane area is to nudge the machine forward as the ball strikes the rubber. This will give the ball a deeper bounce into the rubber and add some recoil energy to send it further up the playfield. One technique which works well when the ball is heading towards the outlane area is to shake the machine with short, vigorous action to effectively narrow the gap so the ball will have less tendency of going into the area. If the posts contact the ball during shaking, it will tend to send the ball away. If the ball makes it into the outlane area, you can increase your odds of getting the ball into the inlane by shaking the machine whenever the ball is over the outlane and not shaking when the ball is over the inlane. Hopefully, the ball will settle into the inlane. Let's review. Saving techniques extend ball time. Learn the techniques for straight down the middle and outlane saving. Understand the effects of playfield elements, especially the slingshots. Trapping one or more balls in a cradle is a great way to control the action during multiball. This keeps the balls in control and out of the way so you can make shots. Just remember to watch out for balls which may go under the extended flipper. To put one of the balls back into play, if two or more are cradled on one flipper, Just a quick flip will usually send one over to the other side. A billiard block is a saving technique where you use a cradled ball to hit a ball which is heading straight down the middle. Ramps, tunnels, scoops, and any area that the ball is detained in is a good place to shoot one of the balls during multiball, as this allows you to focus on the remaining ball so you can accurately and in an undistracted way make the required shots. At the start of multiball, many games have a short grace period in which a drained ball is saved and relaunched into play. This time is usually indicated by one of the inserts flashing to tell you when the period is over. During this time, it is good to focus on making shots and not being as concerned about keeping balls in play, as they will be returned by the auto relaunch. Let's review. Use trapping to control balls during multiball. Take advantage of holding areas and use billiard blocking to extend multiball. Quirks in pinball are due to design elements which are not apparent or are simply instances where the ball is being affected due to forces which are not seen or not intuitive. You need to be aware of these quirks and compensate accordingly. In order to transfer the most energy to the ball from the flippers, keep in mind several things. If the ball is heading rapidly down the playfield, there is a lot of energy which needs to be absorbed before the ball will head back up. The flipper coil only has so much power to offer, so if you slightly delay your flipping in this case, the mechanism backstop will provide a place for the ball to bounce off of. Then the flipper can deliver all of its power to the ball and send it back up the playfield with maximum power. This delay is very subtle in real time, but makes all the difference when you need maximum power to make a tall ramp. If you look carefully at the slingshots, you will see that typically there is an actuator which strikes the back of the rubber in the center and two switches on either side. The switches are activated by the ball when it deflects the rubber sufficiently to make one of the switches. One thing to be aware of is if the ball strikes the slingshot near one of the two posts, the rubber may not deflect enough to activate the switch, and the ball may bounce off in a manner that you did not anticipate. Often, flipping depends on anticipation, especially near the flippers, due to the close proximity to the slingshots. An unexpected bounce due to the sling kicker not actuating could mean a sudden drain. Be aware of how the slingshots perform when the ball strikes them at different angles and locations. Since the kicker moves at 90 degrees to the rubber, the ball will tend to roll away at 90 degrees also. In other words, the kicker tends to affect the rebound angle significantly near the center of the slingshot. On many machines, the ball will experience a small hop when it rolls to the flipper from the in lane. The hop occurs at the point where the rail ends and the flipper begins. If you flip the ball during the hop, it may affect your accuracy. It is better to make sure the ball is firmly in contact with the flipper for maximum power. Let's review. Learn how unseen factors or seemingly innocent playfield elements affect gameplay. Understand how flipper power affects shot dynamics. Make no mistake, the designer of the game is concerned with keeping your game short and the cash box full of coins, so anything which appears innocent yet reduces ball time is bad for the player. The desired impression is that the game is designed fairly, but in reality it is not. This keeps you thinking that you just had bad luck and another game will go your way. You must play knowing that these design elements are working against you and you must compensate to overcome them. Be aware that the slingshots are angled to increase the odds of outlaning. The slingshots also propel the ball away from the flippers and reduce your chances to control the ball with the flippers. The shape and configuration of the slingshots contribute to funneling. Funneling is a term I use to describe a design scheme in which playfield elements are arranged in such a way as to channel the ball toward the middle of the playfield. Slingshot kicker mechanisms work by the ball deflecting the rubber sufficiently to activate one of the two switches, which in turn activates the kicker to propel the ball away. Nudging can help deflect the rubber more if you want the switch to be activated. The outlane area has in its design a few things that make the odds of outlaning higher, yet give the appearance of fairness. Since the size of the outlane and inlane at a quick glance appear to be the same size, the actual odds of the ball going down one or the other is not 50-50. In most games, the construction of the outlane area is as follows. The upper slingshot post is higher than the division between the lanes. This rubber-covered post will tend to bounce the ball away and towards the outlane. The outer wall, which comprises the outlane, is usually wood. Wood absorbs energy from the ball and will promote the ball settling into the outlane area. Sometimes the outlane wood rail has a metal guide which also absorbs energy, and the curvature helps to direct the ball down into the outlane. This fact is disguised sometimes by a kickback feature, so the guide serves double duty. Remember, the ball arrives to the area from the center and traveling outward, so since the ball is heading right for the outlane, odds are good it may just go right in and not even hit any posts. Most games have the flippers in a traditional arrangement. This provides some familiarity so skills can be transferred between games so players feel comfortable. There are some subtle differences which can throw off your play. Many times the flippers are not in the actual center of the cabinet. This can distort your view and must be known and compensated for. Sometimes the gap between the flippers is changed to control ball times. Become familiar with the ramps, tunnels, and passages on the game you are playing. Many times, ramps lead back to in-lanes, which is a great way to keep the ball in control and not randomly bouncing down the playfield. Some ramps lead across the playfield and return on the opposite side of the game. This is a great way to pass the ball to the other flipper. Some ramps, if not shot properly and the ball rolls backward, will be suspiciously near the center drain. This is typically intentional and yet appears innocent. Make sure those ramps are shot with power and authority. Some games have targets which are angled such that the rebound is directed towards straight down the middle or the out lanes. Be careful to spot those angles and try hitting those targets with backhand flips. Let's review. Become familiar with common design schemes such as slingshot and outlane arrangement and how this affects gameplay. Let's review the topics we've covered in Pinball Basics. In aiming, we learned to use trapping and cradle shooting to increase accuracy, that backhand shots may reduce drain risk, and accuracy will improve with practice and experience. In passing, we learned that passing could be used to make shots that are side-dependent, and that the four basic passes are the bounce, rollover, post, and tap. In trapping, we learned that trapping is a form of ball control which allows for better aiming and multi-ball management. Simple trapping and drop catching are the most common methods of trapping. In physics, we learned that nudging is a way to influence the ball by energy transfer and to become familiar with the tilt mechanism. In saving, we learned that saving techniques extend ball time, and to learn the techniques for straight down the middle and outlane saving, and to understand the effects of playfield elements, especially the slingshots. In multiball, we learned to use trapping to control balls during multiball, and to take advantage of holding areas and use billiard blocking to extend multiball. In quirks, we learned how unseen factors or seemingly innocent playfield elements affect gameplay, and to understand how flipper power affects shot dynamics. And finally, in layout, we became familiar with common playfield design schemes such as slingshot and outlane arrangement and how this affects gameplay. I hope you enjoyed watching Pinball Basics and learned a few things about playing pinball. Keep on flippin'!